Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gobi, and this is Mohammed and Mukesh with me. And this is another episode of our series, Organize Your Existence for a Life of Happiness and Fulfillment, a mental health series for remote tech workers. And today we're going to be talking about how to mindfully keep moving past bad thoughts. And this was actually a topic that was selected by Mohammed and Mukesh together. So Mohammed brought in the keep moving and Mukesh brought in the mindfulness. So I'd love to hear some of your general thoughts on this area.
Okay, so on my end, I think I know how, if someone says you how to mindfully keep moving past bad thoughts. I think what it means is first you have to have kind of self-awareness that we're heading in the right direction. So you try to the negative bad thoughts, try to identify them, try to replace them with with more positive and realistic positive thoughts. Try to practice that and try to avoid and deny negative thoughts, and also try to cope or adapt with criticism, so that you keep on moving towards your direction. If you have a sense of purpose, then it's easy to negate the bad thoughts that you keep on having. That's on me.
I
Yeah.
really like the word realistic that you used there because sometimes things can be made so positive, but they can be made a little bit more realistic. Sometimes our minds can be so negative. Uh, Mindfulness, I think part of it means that your happiness can only be dependent on yourself. I think that's something that BK Shivani says sometimes, but a lot of other like gurus, happiness gurus, they say this like because you can only choose whether or not to let because you can only choose whether or not to let thoughts or triggers harm you. It's your choice, but it's so difficult to do. Uh, and often we find ourselves giving that power to others. And I find this very difficult myself to not give others the power to affect my happiness. I don't know. Sometimes it's difficult to treat others as just statistical data points that can be swayed probabilistically. You know, politicians know how to do this well. They can campaign and they can influence the masses through calculated efforts, like like cron jobs on a server. They just run, they send out their campaigns one at a time, their mass marketing campaigns, and you know, they just don't worry about what is the effect. And uh, you know, they maybe they remember they and their thoughts will all be dead in 80 years, right? All of our thoughts and us will just be dead in 80 years. So uh, how do we make the most of our time is one thing. Another thing is just one thing I overheard earlier when you both were discussing was how do we avoid negative thoughts? But actually when you try to avoid something, that's the thing you think about more. That often happens, right? If I tell you don't think, the famous example is an elephant, right? If you tell you don't think about a white elephant, then that's the thing you'll think about. But how do we divert negative and OCD thoughts? And I have difficulty with this sometimes, these OCD thoughts and feelings, and instead focus on writing our own script. Well, the only method, and this is literally the only method that I've found that actually works, is engaging in flow. So what I mean by flow is focusing on really just doing something, whether it's coding or some work. It makes making my work environment focus friendly and just allowing every word. You know, if I can't focus on something, I literally read every single word. So I'm working on an assignment in CSS, and so I'm saying here, users should be asked, reading every sentence that every word until I can make myself focus. And sometimes if I'm feeling too stressed, I'll do exercises, back lifts or stretches in the Pomodoro breaks to sort of divert the focus into something. But I'm curious about, you know, mindfulness. It sounds like something that's possible to achieve, but then when we actually try it, we cannot change our thoughts. We don't have power over it, and we can only have power over what we're actually doing. So I'm curious whether either of you have had any experiences like this before in your lives.
Yeah. So hi, my name is Mukesh, and uh, mindfulness means we have to concentrate or engaging into our work without any distraction. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we are feeling that anyhow we get distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So I have experienced that, and sometimes when I'm working, I will get bad thoughts. But I have many times I had also tried to avoid that through meditations.
Yeah, somehow avoiding the thought doesn't work for me. When I try to avoid the thought comes more. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, uh, I don't know. Do you have any strategy for that or?
No, I was telling that I had tried to avoid, but
Uh,
couldn't. Means couldn't. But through meditations, I improved.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I say? Okay. So
Yeah,
can I contribute on this, Kobe?
yeah,
Okay. So okay. Many times, bad thoughts come and go and every time. So I think for me it has worked. I think plenty of times because normally when I do work, we have like office and everything, so I have colleagues that surround me at a time. So I think one of the ways strategies that I try to avoid these negative thoughts is that I try to engage maybe in a story, like I laugh with my friends and colleagues, so that when I try to laugh, try to be happy, it kind of pushes away all the and I try to engage, try to talk chit chat with my colleagues the whole day. Well, that's how I work. I enjoy working while talking. It really helps me, the charisma in me, and the energy in me, and that I forget any negative thought that I could have maybe gotten at that particular time. So laughing also time with the colleagues, at times really helps. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that uh, laughing, you're in the flow of laughing. You're in the flow of talking to people, and that probably is what makes you forget about the negative thoughts. Sometimes when we're working alone or when we're working with others, sometimes we do succeed actually at you have this OCD obsessive thought, and then you just realize that, oh, I'm not going to worry about this now, or I already have the solution for this. I figured it out and I accept that. And that's when I often smile. I'll smile. Okay, yeah, I've conquered that. But it's this morning it took me a while to conquer something. I was in the middle of some work, but my thoughts were also on something else. And so I had started to develop a sheet where I'd keep track of all the different negative thoughts, like a jealous thought or a thought about how do other people perceive me type of thought. And then I'd have the solution in the right hand column. And every time I'd get the jealous thought, I would mark in the spreadsheet, I got the jealous thought. Every time I use the solution of, you know, all that matters is my small niche contribution. Others will have their contribution. And in the end, we'll all be dead in 800 years and forgotten. So it doesn't really matter. Just when I use that solution, I would increment it. Sometimes the incrementing itself would become a pain because I would constantly be doing my work, and then I'd go back to that spreadsheet and increment, and I was spending too much time. So then I started to do it in my head a little bit. I said, "Oh, I know the solution. That's a mental issue. I know the solution already." And this helped. This saved me a lot of time, but I wouldn't say I'm 100% perfect. I still get probably sunk away into distracting thoughts, bad thoughts, maybe 10% at least of the time, maybe more of the time that I'm working. I try to ingrain this correct behavior and I try to document it in my sheets, uh, especially when I'm really proud that, oh, just the other day, there was a point when I felt like, we were all going to watch a movie together, a show, me and my family. And we spent half an hour before my bedtime to try to figure out how to fix the TV. And the problem was the TV, the HDMI cable was just not working. We spent half an hour and the time was gone. And then I had to go to sleep because I had to get up the next day. And then I thought, this is the perfect stimulus for me to get upset. This is normally 10 years ago. This is the perfect time when I would get upset. But I remember that in my sheet, it says sometimes everything will go wrong and one has to just accept. And I remembered that at that moment and I felt proud. So then I increment the sheet. That's a type of moment where I might increment my sheet. But sometimes when it's just a sort of fleeting thought and I'm in the middle of some coding or something, I don't want to go and check the sheet again. I'll just try to remember in my head. Now, sometimes I get negative thoughts, and this is something I've had a lot of difficulty with since I've started building these techniques, is just glossing over it. I feel like little kids, they get thoughts and then they just sort of ignore them and move past. They just keep moving without even thinking, oh, I've used some strategy to conquer this. It's like it just came and go, that it's okay to just let it go and keep moving without doing any sort of counting or math or anything like that. But for me, I find that when a negative thought comes, I can't just let it go. At least I have to say, oh, I know the solution to this negative thought. I'm curious how you feel about this paradigm of problems and solutions versus just problem, I don't even need a solution, just keep moving.
I think that's a good strategy on your end, Gobi. Trying having a sheet where you list out negative thoughts, trying to have a solution on them, try to work on them. Everyone has a different strategy. For you that works. For me, engaging with my colleagues works for me. Yeah, and it's a good type of strategy. So it gives you a record and everything. It kind of guides you, where are you at, how many negative thoughts have you tried to to find a solution to them, and how many are not, how many are pending. So it kind of gives you a sense of direction on where you are at. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm curious, Mukesh, do you work remotely from home or do you go into an office also?
Actually, I'm working from office.
Okay. So then, but you sometimes will work at home also, right? Both of you,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes in a week or in a month, I used to work at home.
Right. And how did you deal with this during COVID times, at least, or when you were all working?
Yeah. In COVID times, I was working remotely for, I think, around 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time also, I faced a lot of distractions.
Mm-hmm.
We actually it's new for us. Means before COVID, we all working in the office.
Mm-hmm.
So it's new for us. Like I feel it's funny for first time. Like I'm in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm working in jail
Mm-hmm.
first time. But after that, it's means what we call it. It is for my habit that I should not go office. It's better to work remotely. And uh, actually, after our office is open, I I had worked remotely 6 months
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to go office.
Mm-hmm.
And mindfulness, it's kind of like we have to means we have to try continuously. Practice makes perfect, like I
Mm-hmm.
think. So if we had practice and habits and keep moving with avoiding bad, we can't avoid. We
Yeah.
can't avoid. If we want to avoid bad thoughts, then it we get lot of another bad thoughts. But
Yeah.
I have one I think I have one formula for that. Actually,
Uh-huh.
I'm avoiding my bad thoughts and I'm refreshing my minds through the
Uh-huh.
watching comedy web series
I see.
and I'm expressing my feelings to my colleagues and my friends, and
Uh-huh.
we are going out for some fun and some
Uh-huh.
means some places to visit. So that's my strategy.
Activity. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's almost like both of you are talking about like moving away to doing another activity. It's almost sometimes so like I always used to think you need to find a solution for the thought and then move forward. And it's almost sometimes a balance, right? Like sometimes it's worth it. You have a bad thought, find the solution, and then move forward. But sometimes you're thinking about that same bad thought over and over again. It's sometimes worth it to just say, I have some solution, but it's not the best solution. But I might as well just go and drink a beer with my friends and go out instead of worrying that how do we draw that balance? Like so at some point, I feel like there's always a solution. We should keep moving forward. And sometimes I feel like I've even written down the solutions now because I've been in this body for 28 years. Now I feel like, I can't just, I've seen a lot of the problems over and over again. The same problems keep coming again and again. So sometimes we just have to keep reusing the same solutions, and they work. And we reinforce our sort of beliefs and, oh, what is the right thing to do in this situation? When I wonder at the end of the day, why couldn't I just do all the cool things that I wanted to do today? At the beginning of the day, I said I look forward to doing all these things. At the end of the day, I haven't done half of them. It's always because I couldn't, as Muhammad Rajab so much emphasized earlier, keep moving. I couldn't keep moving. And that's why I couldn't do all the things that I said I would do at the beginning of the day by the end of the day. I wasn't able to change the subject and keep moving on to the things I was looking forward to doing. So then sometimes when I'm using the Pomodoro technique, I'll even write down, what do I look forward to in this Pomodoro? What do I look forward to doing in this particular hour? And whatever the bad thought that comes in, is it worth sacrificing the time away from the thing I was looking forward to doing? Uh, it's probably not, but at the same time, as you said, Mukesh, thought suppression doesn't work either. When you try to suppress and say, oh, don't think about it, the thought just keeps coming back. You can think about other good thoughts, and then it's like a race, like, oh shoot, I thought about a bad thought. Now let me quickly think about 5 good thoughts. But oh, while I was thinking about the 5 good thoughts, another bad thought came. So I need to think about another. And that doesn't work. It's almost like you have to stop caring about um uh you could think about good thoughts to an extent, but you can't fully outnumber them or anything like that. And then you just become a robot where you're trying to follow a sheet, and if an itch is there and there's nothing you can do about something, but it's bothering you. Oh, this person thought like this about me. It's bothering me, but there's literally nothing I can do to solve that. Then I guess it's a balance. At that stage, you're in a crossroads. Should I do something? Should I message the person on social media? Should I do something about it? Or should I just let it pass and do like something that I want to do? Will I be able to even focus on the thing that I want to do? I feel like I'm at those junctures many times in life. I'm curious how you deal with this. Do you decide to solve the problem, or do you decide to move away from the problem and do something else?
Okay, I think I have an answer to that, and
Okay.
so I think it depends with thoughts. There are some thoughts that they're out of your control. Some thoughts you can try to control them. For example, like how your colleagues could think about you and your behavior and everything, and maybe your work ethic. I think I always have this saying: things happens. Everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, regardless of whatever anyone else can think about me, but everything happens for a reason. So I just try to just try to accept whatever someone would think about me. I know myself. I am I'm I this okay, like I have this saying, like I love myself more than anyone. So that kind of also also helps me, try to negate with the, with the with the negative thoughts or whatever bad thoughts can, or someone can think about me. So that kind of, helps me, because whatever someone thinks about me, it's okay. That's on his honor. I know myself more than anyone else, and everything happens for a reason. We have a creator, so everything happens for a reason, the way it is. So you often get to, often in this Sambaland, like in a wonderland, where you should try to enjoy where currently you are, than thinking about something that you can't control. There are things that you can't control; those then you can you can control. But the other thoughts that you cannot control, they are out of, your control. So yeah, so you try to, separate them. These are the this is something that I can control, and this is something that I can control. You can't control. So you try to, divide them, separate them in that, perspective. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's on me.
Mhm.
I don't know if that works for you, Kobe.
Yeah, no, I think the triaging of what is in my control and what is not in my control is important.
Yeah.
The thing is that in theory, like, yeah, that kind of works, right? You get a bad thought, then you just have to sort like be like a robot, right? Can I control it or not? It's just an if statement. If controllable, then do something about it. If not controllable, then move on to your work. But it's not so simple, because when you try to do the else case, right, of moving on to your work, when you can't control it, the thought comes back. No, I'm a believer that the mind is somewhat like a computer, in that it's neurons firing that are carbon based, versus computers are silicon based. But at the same time, it is quite difficult, right, to just follow a formula. I like the word that Mukesh that you used earlier, a formula, because I really do want a happiness formula, and I do want a formula to deal with bad thoughts. But how in the moment do we snap out of it? How do we sort of say, first thing that comes is, I say, even if I snap out of it now, the problem will come back in the future. So if I snap out of it now, how will I be able to be snapping out of it in future? So I worry about the future. Or then what I'll do is I'll say, do I even have what it takes to snap out of this one time? And then I'll go back and remember all the past lessons and say, is there any way for me to solve this problem? And sometimes that works. But the thing is that every time I have a bad thought, as Mukesh, you said once, uh, you find a solution, but then sometimes you'll get another bad thought that'll come. And then it's like you're climbing up a mountain where you argue and you get a bad thought, and then you have an argument for it. Okay, this is the solution, or this is why it doesn't matter. But then you get another bad thought or another fear, and then you have to resolve that. And you're just constantly climbing up a mountain. And sometimes I feel like I'm scratching, eh, in my mother tongue, there's a phrase that, a monkey will go on scratching its own wound and keep making it worse and worse and worse. And I feel like sometimes we do that. We wake up in the morning, we're ready to do 4 hours of good work on some exciting project that we're interested in. And then we get that one bad thought. And then we say, okay, let me think about this for 1 minute. And you think about it for 1 minute, and you start like, okay, I have a solution for that. But then another side thought comes. It's like, oh, is there this other problem that might exist? And then you start thinking about that, and then you lose another minute, and then all of a sudden you've lost 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden you've lost 1 hour, and then you feel guilty that, oh, in this precious time that I was supposed to be working on this good stuff, I wasted all my time thinking about this bad thought that doesn't even matter that much. And so then what I started realizing is, okay, I need to have a dedicated time in the day to just worry. So I'm just going to have a dedicated time while I'm taking a shower. I'll listen to some podcasts, but then I'll just worry for like 5-10 minutes, maybe more, just so that I get that worrying out of my system. Or I'll reserve half an hour during my workday to just worry so that I get it out of my system. But the thing is, even when our schedule sort of incorporates this reflection, we cannot always control it, right? We cannot always control it and say, oh, I'm going to worry about things in this time, I'm going to reflect about this thing in this time, and then I'm going to work in this other time, and I'm going to have 100% focus, even though I would like to be able to program myself. So then I start to doubt, is it even possible to fully control things, or is it only possible to set certain like schedules, certain rules of how you'll behave, and then try your best, and in the end you might get 80%, 90%. I mean, one thing I try to do is like see if I have a difficult situation and I'm thinking about something that's bothering me a lot, and I'm not even able to get up off of the bed or off of my seat or whatever, and I'm supposed to go somewhere else to do it, right? If one day I'll wake up and I realize that I cannot do something at my desk, can I do it from my phone right here? Can I do something about it? If I can't, if I'm not able to work at my desk, can I just do it from my laptop on my bed if I'm not able to leave the bed? Those kind of things I've tried, although I'm not doing that as much nowadays because I really like my desk nowadays. But the thing is that these kind of things are like, can I do it from where I am? Can I get out of it just this one time? These are really tricky things. They're really tricky because as soon as you start going down that negative path, it becomes a sunk cost where you feel like you'll just keep going down that hole. And when you fix, even if you fix one problem that's a low-hanging fruit, if there's a low-hanging fruit problem, a problem that's easy to fix, you just fix it. But then you get another problem, and then another problem, and then you start to have a big sunk cost, and then you've lost time. I'm curious if any of you have this thought of like, oh, I've lost time. I've lost time in worrying about something that I shouldn't have been worried about. I solved one problem, but then I got another problem, and that's how I lost time. I'm wondering if any of these sort of themes come up in your experiences and how you deal with them as well.
Yeah, I have experience in coding. I'm giving example of code.
Yeah.
Actually, for last 2 to 3 months, before 2 to 3 months, I'm working on one of the project, and I was fixing issue of one of other developers. When I was trying to fix one issue, it will raise another 4 bugs, 4 issues another. So this is the example of I'm giving. This is example of how means it is also an issue of us, like we are working and we are fixing bugs. So I faced this type of problems.
We have this Pomodoro technique where we're supposed to work for 25 minutes, rest for 5 minutes. And in those techniques, I try to think, and of course, Tia is going to do this, the app that Jehoshaphat is building. It has you in the breaks, think about what are we grateful for in life today, breathing, meditation, thinking of other people who have life even harder and appreciating what we have good. Sometimes taking the time to revel and savor and adventure the now. We have already spent time worrying and planning the past and the future. So sometimes we feel like worrying, and then sometimes, of course, we go down rabbit holes, Mukesh, as you were saying, of problem after problem after problem. And you mentioned coding, but that happens in regular like emotions and life as well. And then we feel sometimes as if we worried too much. Oh, I lost so much time, and I fear of missing out. I could have spent that time doing something else, and then we hit ourselves in the head and say, I could have done this better. And I had so many interesting plans that would have led to self-actualization. I would realize my true potential, but I did not. I'm curious if if bad thoughts are what are holding us back from realizing our full potential? Is it the bad thoughts that are holding us back? Or is it our reaction to the bad thoughts that are holding us back from realizing the full potential? Or do you feel like you are realizing your full potential? That's a question I just have that I'd like to figure out.
I think overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
If we are thinking continuously on bad thoughts,
Yeah.
and I think in deep thinking.
I think I'm overthinking a little bit right now.
Yeah, I would second Mukesh. I think overthinking, it gets you to lose track. You often think of things that are out of our hands. You end up enjoying or realizing what is in front of you.
Uh-huh.
I think there is this saying, I forgot, I saw it somewhere. So you often get to you're in this wonderland
Uh-huh.
somewhere. You're thinking of being somewhere. And you often forget where
Mm-hmm.
actually you are. So yeah. So overthinking sometimes, and the negative thoughts, can also try to hinder you from self actual, to actually
Yeah.
realizing your full potential. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I think that maybe after this conversation, listening to both of you and hearing what both of you, Mohammed, your emphasis on friends, Mukesh, your emphasis also on like hangouts and friends, but also a bit of problem solving and also a bit of just moving forward in your sense, it leans me more towards the acceptance than the overthinking. I think I agree with the point about overthinking that both of you have mentioned, because I think my tendency is a highly engineering oriented tendency. If there's a thought, I need to solve it. If there's a thought, I need to solve it wherever it goes. But then that leads to overthinking. And I'm not able to stop that. It's like I have this engineering mindset where any problem that comes, I'll try to solve it, but then there's another problem left. And that's what Mukesh, I was telling you about. There's that movie Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, and right, maybe life is just sometimes happy and sometimes sad, and it's okay, and that is the biological art that we are subject to by the fact that we are born in these bodies. There'll always be some bother, and there'll always be worries. Some people call it mild OCD, obsessions, which we'll get, and as we age, we get more and more affected by life, right? As we age, we have more and more good memories, but we also have more and more bad memories. And the thing is that earlier it was mentioned, maybe Mukesh, you mentioned this, that you you sometimes try to not think about the thought. And I'm not sure, did it work or not when you tried to not think about the bad thought?
Sorry.
So when you said you got a bad thought and then you didn't want to think about it. Did that technique
Yeah.
work of trying to like move away from the thought?
Yeah, but that technique will work if we have another solution. Like another
Yeah.
solution means like we have like watching web series to talking with friends. Then we can avoid that thinking.
Yeah, I thought the webcomics thing was a good idea because that's something that makes you laugh, which is biologically good. And it's also kind of just, another thing separate from the bad thought that takes your mind
Yeah,
away.
yeah, it will divert our mind.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the diversion rather than, rather than the solution. Maybe there is no solution. Maybe the solution is diversion with Muhammad's friends or with your web comics. Life is a typhoon. Life is a typhoon of thoughts, events, smells, tastes, sights, sounds, feelings that are all part of this artistic, happy, interesting, great, and meaningful life. To briefly be able to see the positive side of each of these things and take that leap of faith into the now.
Actually, I have one point here. Like
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel that overthinking and deeply thinking is also a good, means good habit.
Uh-huh.
Means we have like if you want to do something, or if you want to build or develop something, then
Mm-hmm.
if we are overthinking on them, on that building part, or at some whatever we want to do, whatever if I have task
Mm-hmm.
and I'm overthinking on that task, means I will get lot of ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
then after I will sort out which one idea is better than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have watched the web series Money Heist, the La Casa de Papel.
Yeah.
In that, the professor was over, means they continuously overthinking. They think all of the aspects and all of the situations will come in the future.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I
Uh-huh.
think some positive overthinking is also good,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, negative overthinking is not good.
Yeah, it's like a balance.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's balancing it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think that, you know, sometimes I feel when I look at different people in my life, some of them feel like they don't ever have bad thoughts. They seem like they have their life together and they only have good thoughts and no bad thoughts. But then sometimes I ask them, do you have bad thoughts? And they say they do have bad thoughts and they have made mistakes. And I find it difficult
yeah,
to believe them, especially elderly people. They feel like they have their stuff so together. Is there any sort of dark mark of sort of uh mark of sort of just imperfection in their life too, or are these people just saints, or does it just feel like they're saints but they're not actually saints? uh it feels like I have overthought about many things. I have made mistakes in so many things. I have bad thoughts about so many things. Is it just me who's having this and others are not having this, or does everyone really have this problem? And especially, do some of these elderly people who went through all their lives and seem like they just are happy all the time and have their things together, do they have those issues too? I'm curious whether you have noticed this as well, either of you. um,
I, I think on my side, well, from my observation, I think they are human beings, or the old people and everything. So I think they don't really care about what the world says and everything. They have already, they have made mistakes. Some of the mistakes they have really regretted, but they don't often really care about whatever everyone says about them. And for and what, because they know the elderly, so often the time that is remaining from them, so they tend to enjoy the time that is left to to things that they actually love and everything. So they tend, for the time that is left for them, they tend to use that time to enjoy what life has to offer, than often thinking about what everyone says and everything. Yeah. So I think that's my observation.
that's a pretty cool ability. To even in happy moments, we have to accept that there's a background noise. Like even when we're in our happiest moments, we may get a bad thought. We accept that background noise of annoying feelings, like you accept thoughts. You've seen them before and it's fine to devote your attention to the good stuff in life. I guess you need to learn this when you're juggling with many people. As soon as you start having kids or other relationships and things, you have more and more relationships, marriage, kids, other relationships, responsibilities. How do we still, when we have so many thoughts and so many responsibilities and so many stresses in life, work, how do we still enjoy our imperfect but artistic life, our artistic days? How do we, when we're enjoying something so thoroughly and in the middle of coding an awesome project or in the middle of watching an amazing show and we have a thought that takes us away into something somewhere where we don't want to be, how do we not worry about losing that flow and coming back to what we're doing? There is something that my meditation app Medito, which is one of the few free meditation apps, there are so many meditation apps that charge money, and I don't feel like that makes sense, because if you're you can't sell happiness. But the thing is that Medito says they are just thoughts. So in one hand, I think there was some famous philosopher, maybe it was Rene Descartes, maybe it was Emerson or Thoreau, I'm not sure. One of them said, a man is what he thinks about all day, or a woman is what she thinks about all day. But at the same time, then it's so much stress, like I need to think all these good thoughts. But Medito, the meditation app, says they are just thoughts. If you acknowledge them and don't give them attention, if they don't deserve it, then soon you'll find that you've already moved on, coming to the keep moving point of Muhammad. And I found that I've become slightly better at this now, mainly through your mechanisms of just like the comics and the talking to friends, mainly just through doing other things have I escaped thoughts and found other thoughts. It hasn't been with really like forcibly trying to substitute. When I try to forcibly substitute, oh shoot, I thought a bad thought, let me think 3 good thoughts to compensate, it doesn't work for me. But the thing that kind of works is just the flow of doing something else. And I think that's what I garnered from both of you. Making things active has also helped. If I am reading something and I cannot concentrate because I'm having a bad thought, then reading it out loud has helped me. That is one concrete thing that has helped me before. When I get bad thoughts and I want to entertain them, thinking concretely about this is a solution. And another thing I've tried to think about is if a negative thought comes, as I said, I have that sheet of solutions where I'll think, okay, I have a solution to this. I have a jealous thought, I have a solution. I have a competitive thought, I have a solution. I have a depressing thought, I have a solution for that. But if the thought comes again the second time in one day, then I cannot go back and think about the solution. I can just say I've already solved that for today. I can only use the solution once. So this is the balance point. We said, okay, when should we try to solve the problem versus when should we try to just move on without even worrying about solving the problem? Well, here's maybe an idea. First time the bad thought comes, we try to solve it. Second time it comes, just move on because we've already solved it, even if it feels weird. So it's almost like an algorithm. Just remembering that you've solved it already consciously. So the other kind of solution that I've thought about is every time you have a bad thought, and maybe this is just me overthinking, as Mukesh was saying that, sometimes we overthink and it can be negative. Sometimes we overthink and it can create creativity. I think that's a very nuanced point. Every time you have a bad thought, it's usually a positive reminder of the relief that, especially if the thought is about a fear, it's a positive reminder of the relief of the reality that is not the case. So if you're afraid something will happen, it's a reminder that it hasn't happened yet. I guess that's one thing. It's like if you're afraid something negative would happen, well, it's a reminder of one positive thing. That negative thing hasn't happened yet. Sometimes if you get a negative thought and it's coming the second time or onward in the day, it's a positive reminder that you've already solved it the first time in the day. and it caused you to solve that. This problem caused you to create a solution, trained you to be more of a problem solver, and this pesky issue is solved. At that time, when you realize you have this negative thing in your life, but you've solved it, and that thought doesn't harm you, but reminds you of your maturity, your creativity, your artisticness, in despite having an imperfect life, being able to say, I know what really matters to me and what I have control over. I know my solutions. I've used them once. Now I am choosing to keep moving. I think that that might be closer to the solution than anything else. I think it's a difficult topic, but I also think that I've learned something from both of you, especially on the web comics and the talking with friends aspect. It made me feel a little bit closer towards the keep moving side than the purely solving side.
Yeah, if you have kids in at your home, then you can play with kids, and
Mhm.
that will be also a better solution. Actually, I have son, my 1.5-year-old son,
Mhm.
and I usually play with him. And while I'm playing with him, I forget all the my tension.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and also at times I think for most developers think it's actually I'm a gamer actually.
Uh-huh.
Also, if you're a fan of the aspect of gaming and everything, it kind of helps, especially if you have problem solver like you, Gobi. It kind of helps because when you're gaming, you're going through missions, through tracks and everything. So you
Mhm.
try to solve problems. At kind of it kind of also elevates you into
Mhm.
different direction. So yeah, you could also
Uh-huh.
try to think if you could go divert into that direction of gaming. It can also
Mhm.
work. Yeah.
So I got two solutions now: have kids and play games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'll try to have some kids and play some games. So
Yeah.
with that, thank you, Mukesh. Thank you, Muhammad.
Yeah.
This was a beautiful session. It was a little long, but I think I learned a lot from both of you.
You.
Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you,
We
Gobi.
also
Thank you,
learned a lot
Mukesh.
from you,
Yeah, a lot.
and from Mohammed also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. Thank you, Gobi.
Yeah.
All right. We'll stop the recording. Take care.
Take care. Bye
Yeah.
bye.